Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Today, we're really plunging into something pretty crucial, though maybe a bit intricate for some, the world of the Seventh-day Adventist Church Board. And, the vital roles its members play. If you've ever wondered how a huge global organization keeps things running smoothly at the local level, well, this is your shortcut to understanding that core governance piece. We're aiming to uncover some perhaps surprising facts and really dig into the practical side of church leadership. Our main guides for this are two key documents: the Quick Start Guide for church board members and the main Seventh-day Adventist Church Manual. These aren't just rule books, they're more like blueprints, laying out duties, responsibilities, and the principles behind how the church operates.
And it really matters, doesn't it? This isn't just about administrative ticking boxes. It connects directly to the idea of order, effective leadership things that are vital for any structured organization, really, but especially one with a spiritual mission. The SDA Church Manual points out that God is a God of order, and it echoes that biblical idea. 1 Corinthians 14.4, let all things be done decently and in order.
That's a powerful point. So it's not just about avoiding messiness.
Exactly. It's a theological commitment.
Yeah.
The idea is that this structure actually empowers the church, helps it fulfill its mission more effectively. Structure supporting spirituality, not hindering it.
Okay, so we see why the structure is important, foundational even. But let's get down to brass tacks. What is the church board exactly?
Right. So the SDA Church Manual, it basically defines it as the local church's main governing body. Think of it like the local constituency meeting's operational arm. It functions within that larger Seventh-day Adventist church structure.
And that structure has a certain philosophy behind it.
Absolutely. The whole Seventh-day Adventist approach really emphasizes order and, discipline. The manual states it plainly: God is a God of order. It even brings in Ellen G. White's writings, emphasizing that Christ wants his followers brought together in church capacity, observing order, having rules and discipline, and all subject one to another.
Subject one to another. That suggests a certain kind of governance.
It does. It points towards this representative model they use. It's not strictly top-down. Authority ultimately rests with the membership.
Right.
And it gets expressed through representatives they elect at each level, right down to the local church board itself.
That makes sense for a global church, allowing for both unity and local adaptation.
Precisely. And the church manual is the guide for that. It sets the main policies, the principles, but it also recognizes, that local churches need some room to apply things locally, interpret minor stuff.
But there are limits to that interpretation.
Oh, definitely. The key phrase is that any local variance needs clear consensus among board members that a variance is within the spirit of the manual.
Okay, so flexibility, but with agreed upon boundaries, not just doing whatever you want.
Exactly. It maintains that shared framework.
So understanding that framework, what does the board actually do? What's its day-to-day or maybe meeting-to-meeting focus?
Well, the SDA Church Manual boils it down to two huge overarching responsibilities. First, the spiritual nurture of the church. And second, the work of planning and fostering evangelism. Those are the big two.
Spiritual nurture and evangelism.
Okay.
Can we break those down a bit more? What falls under nurture, for instance?
Yeah, absolutely. Under discipleship and nurture, the manual gets specific. The board needs to make sure there's an active discipleship plan happening,
Yeah.
spiritual growth, mentoring members, that sort of thing. It even includes regularly looking at the membership lists and figuring out plans to reconnect with members who might have drifted away. They call it reclaiming.
Actively seeking people out.
Okay.
And evangelism.
Right, evangelism and outreach. The board is responsible for developing and coordinating all of the church's efforts in this area. They look at recommendations from the wider church structure, the conference level, and then they initiate their own local plans, like for public evangelistic meetings.
And coordinating all efforts means?
It means each department, like youth ministries or community services, has to submit their outreach plans to the board for approval first. It ensures everyone's pulling in the same direction, avoid scheduling conflicts or mixed messages.
Makes sense. What else?
Then there's financial oversight. That's a big one. Reviewing the financial statements regularly, approving the annual operating budget.
Approving it directly.
Well, approving it to be recommended to the church business meeting. The whole church body gets the final vote on the budget.
Ah, okay. Another example of that representative structure.
Exactly. And finally, there's property and standards. This covers protecting church buildings and assets, but also, importantly, upholding doctrinal purity and Christian standards within the congregation. It's stewardship, both physical and spiritual.
That's quite a remit. A lot rests on the board. But you mentioned something earlier that caught my ear about membership changes. You said the board recommends but doesn't finalize.
That's right. And it often surprises people. The board can discuss and recommend adding someone to membership or removing someone for reasons other than death or written request. But the final decision, the actual vote to receive or remove a member, that power belongs to the church members themselves, voting in a properly called business meeting.
So the board investigates, deliberates, recommends.
But the congregation holds the ultimate authority on who is formally part of their body. The board just records removals when someone passes away or asks in writing to be removed.
That really clarifies the difference in power between the board and the church as a whole.
It does. It underscores that the board serves the church, operating on its behalf, but doesn't supersede the collective authority of the membership on these really core issues.
Okay, that paints a clear picture of the board's mandate. Now, let's zoom in on the individuals. Who are these board members? What's expected of them personally when they're in that role? What does the Quick Start Guide say?
The Quick Start Guide gives some really practical advice for individual members. In meetings, for instance, they're encouraged to participate, speak up, but, request recognition from the chair first. Stick to the agenda.
And then speak during the meeting, not after.
Yes, that's a key point in the guide. Voice your convictions and concerns in the meeting, not griping in the hallway afterwards. That undermines the process. It also advises observing group dynamics, respecting the chair's guidance, and not rushing to call, question, letting discussion happen.
Basic meeting etiquette, but important.
And practical things, too, like if you're presenting a report, especially asking for money, stand up, be clear, have it printed, show you've done your homework.
What about handling complex topics? Does the board debate every single detail?
Not usually. The guide suggests a smart approach. Substantive issues often get tackled by a relevant subcommittee first. Right.
Like a finance committee or an outreach committee.
Exactly. They can do the deep dive, hash out the details, and then bring a report with recommendations to the full board. This lets the main board focus on the bigger picture, the strategic decisions, rather than getting bogged down.
Efficient. And what about money? You mentioned budget recommendations earlier.
Right. Individual members are expected to be engaged with the finances. When the treasurer presents the statements each meeting, members should look them over, ask questions. Are we on budget? Why is this expense high? Are we operating efficiently?
So active stewardship, not just passive acceptance.
Definitely. And underpinning all of this is the expectation that every board member knows and follows the Seventh-day Adventist Church Manual. That's the rule book, the common ground.
Given all this responsibility, financial, spiritual, strategic, the ethical side must be crucial. What do the guides say about handling potential conflicts?
Oh, absolutely vital. Both the manual and the Quick Start Guide are very clear on ethics, especially conflicts of interest and commitment. A conflict of interest is defined pretty broadly. It's basically any situation where a board member's personal interest could be money, could be something else, even just wanting personal advantage might influence or even just appear to influence their judgment on board matters.
So even the appearance of conflict matters.
Yes. And the manual is explicit. It's unethical to stay silent if you have a potential conflict. You have to declare it.
How is it managed then?
There are clear procedures. Often members sign annual disclosure forms. If a specific conflict comes up on an agenda item, it needs to be documented in writing. And critically, the board member with the conflict must physically excuse themselves from the room during the discussion and the vote on that specific item.
They can't be there at all.
No presence, no participation, no vote, no trying to influence things behind the scenes. The integrity of the board's decision is the priority.
That's quite rigorous.
It needs to be. And related to that is confidentiality. Board discussions can be sensitive. Breaching confidentiality is a serious issue, the guide points out, and could lead to removal from the board. Trust is paramount.
Okay. And what about conflict of commitment? How is that different?
Conflict of commitment is more about things that interfere with the member's ability to actually do their job effectively, like, say, having outside employment that takes up too much time, or maybe using church resources or time for personal business. It's about ensuring their dedication is focused on their church responsibilities.
Got it. So clear ethical guardrails. Beyond the rules, though, what kind of person are they looking for? What are the general qualifications?
The SDA Church Manual lays out some core qualifications for any local church officer, which includes board members.
Hmm.
Things like moral and religious fitness, that's foundational. Also, the ability to feed and guard the church, which implies spiritual leadership, and understanding the importance of respecting pastors and officers.
So character and capacity are key.
Definitely. The manual also warns against certain things. Don't rush people into office before they're ready or qualified, and avoid appointing people known for opposing unity or refusing to cooperate. Unity is a huge theme.
Makes sense for a body that needs to work together. Anything else?
Yes, a practical one.
Hmm.
Officers are expected to lead by example in setting tithing example, showing faithfulness in their own stewardship.
Okay. Now, looking at the board's composition, it seems really diverse. It's not just elders and deacons, is it?
Not at all. That's one of the fascinating things. You have your core roles, elders, deacons, deaconesses, the treasurer, the clerk, but then you have leaders from a whole spectrum of church departments sitting on the board. Think Adventist Possibility Ministries supporting members with disabilities, children's ministries, family ministries, youth ministries, health ministries, stewardship. The list goes on.
Wow, that really covers a lot of ground.
It does, and it's intentional. It ensures that all these different aspects of church life and mission have a voice at the table when decisions are being made. It makes the board a real reflection of the congregation's activities and needs.
And how are all these people chosen? Who actually picks the board members?
That's another key part of the representative process. It's not the board that picks its own members, nor the pastor single-handedly. The SDA Church Manual details the role of the nominating committee. This committee is appointed by the church membership at a church business meeting.
Appointed by the members themselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
And their discussions, while they're figuring out who to nominate for various roles, including board positions, are kept confidential. Then they bring their report, the list of nominees, back to the church membership for a final vote.
Not to the board for approval.
Nope, directly to the church. Again, it reinforces that ultimate authority, and the selection of leaders rests with the congregation. It ensures buy-in.
That whole process really emphasizes accountability back to the members.
It really does. Checks and balances are built in.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, what's the main thing you want people to take away about the Adventist Church Board and its members?
I think the core takeaway is that this isn't just about administration. It's far more than that. These board members are seen as spiritual leaders. They're entrusted with a really sacred mission. Nurturing faith, yes, but also driving evangelism, ensuring the church operates smoothly, ethically, and crucially, in unity.
A role with immense responsibility, guided by both faith and pretty clear governance principles.
Exactly. And if you connect it to the bigger picture, all this detail, this structure in the manual and the Quick Start Guide, it flows from that deep conviction we mentioned earlier, that conviction that God is a God of order, and the belief that a well-governed church, where roles are clear, ethics are upheld, responsibilities are defined, that church is just better positioned to actually do the work it's called to do in the world.
Makes sense. Structure enabling mission.
So maybe a final thought for you, our listener, to mull over. How might applying some of these principles, clear roles, ethical guidelines, collaborative governance, accountability, how might those strengthen other groups or communities you involved in? Even ones completely outside a church context, it's a framework with potentially broad applications, isn't it?